Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We are at 3067 Northeast Pacific Street here in Portland, located down in the basement. I try to describe everything in general as if you are standing in the street facing the front of the home. So right now we are at kind of the back right corner of the house in the laundry room area, laundry room slash bathroom. In the floor here you have a 4-inch ABS backflow valve, or backflow preventer, a couple different terms for them. These little flaps do pop out, and I'll go over my, kind of the pluses and minuses of backflow valves, just in my experience as we go here. Anyway, we're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water's running, we're zeroed out, off we go. So one of the things to be mindful of, and not every backflow valve will experience much in the way of buildup. It just depends on what parts of the plumbing are tied into it. And we just transitioned to cast iron pipe there pretty quick upon entry into the line. We got some hot water running here, bear with me. Anyway, what a backflow valve is intended to do is to prevent a backup from entering into that part of the line. It's a one-way flapper. In my experience, I've cambered over 25,000 sewer lines. I have seen my fair share of these things. I've been a part of a lot of blockage scenarios associated with backflow valves. When they function proper, they can indeed protect at least a part of your plumbing from a backup by preventing it from being able to go all the way back into it. If you are not treating your line nicely though, if things like wipes, paper towels, flushable wipes I include in the improper category, grease, cooking oil, stuff that should not be going down your line goes through those valves. They can get built up on the valve body and the flapper and prevent the flapper from opening properly. You can actually get so much buildup. You can see how I was able to just lift that flapper off of there. They're not really secured in place by much. You just set them in there in the hinge. So I've actually seen buildup get to the point where it slowly but surely starts lifting the flapper out of that hinge. And then, some toilet flush comes through and finishes the job, tries to open and just completely dislodges it. So, anyway, it's always a good spot there. If you ever do get a blockage for some reason, I have some homeowners that frequently check theirs to make sure we're not getting too much buildup on them. But often, they're designed to only protect a particular part of your plumbing. The stuff that sits below grade. So if you don't have kitchen sinks and things like that routing through these areas, that you often won't get much in the way of buildup on them. And so far here, magnificently clean sewer line. We're now entering into a spot. It's not the first part of the line here where we have any kind of defects going on. And we'll see how this looks when the line drains out at the end. You have some level of standing water here right before the transition joint. We'll try and get a better gander at this location as we come back in. We're making a transition here over to 6-inch clay pipe, and we will locate that transition when I come back out. In fact, that's where I'm going to do my initial locate to verify where the line terminates. It'll kill two birds with one stone. It'll tell us what street the line's headed out to. It'll also tell us if any of that clay pipe is still on property or not. All right, and that's the main there at about 89 feet. I did notice you've got some root hairs at some of the clay pipe joints. There's some here. There's a few joints with them. From a flow and functionality standpoint, they're doing nothing to affect functionality. Keep in mind, I don't know if the line is being maintained from time to time, drain cleaning. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to park my camera right on this pipe joint here as best I can over the antenna of the locator. And we're going to see if this clay pipe is on property or not. Flows pretty nicely. There is some standing water at the end of the line. That's pretty common to see with pipe this old. The joints start to wear out, the grout wears out, and they start to slowly but surely suck dirt through them. It often results in progressive settling. As it sits right now, it's all pretty minor stuff, and hopefully most, if not all of this, falls into city responsibility. Alright, so where I'm locating this thing, and I've again, like I mentioned before, I've done over 25,000 inspections. I've located a lot of sewer lines. These locators are very accurate, but when we start talking, you know, half of an inch to an inch, I start to, you know, question that level of accuracy. Where I parked my camera head, I tried to get it close to the antenna on my camera head as possible. I'm picking this locate up about mid-span across the curb, so not quite to the face of the curb yet here. So it looks like there may technically be a little bit of clay still residing on property. By the time you hit this first joint here, we should be off into the roadway. So I think technically speaking, though, you've got a little bit of clay pipe there that still falls into homeowner's responsibility. My concern about this joint here, from just the standing water standpoint, I'm less concerned about that. What's more concerning is how that standing water there looks. The line is unbelievably clean. There is zero buildup anywhere in it. This water, though, has kind of a brown, grainy appearance to it. My concern is that joint there may be dry fit, or the fern coast slipped to the point where the joint's exposed to the ground, and we may end up with a progressive settling type scenario. So from just a pure flow standpoint, I'm less concerned about it right now, but that grainy texture there is very indicative of what it looks like when dirt and sand seep into a pipe from the joint. It's a very common spot for settling issues to begin with. So I'm going to pull back here to the start of this. This is a spot I'm going to recommend a repair on. I'm concerned that this is going to progress and change with time, and you're going to end up with a belly that gets worse and worse, and potentially an offset joint at some point. If for some reason repairs are not done, I recommend rescoping periodically. That water were crystal clear there and super clean like the rest of the line. This line is unbelievably clean. You've got a different level of debris buildup. It's not really debris. That the appearance of the water is not what I would expect to see with a line this clean. And there's a grainy texture to it. You can see that in the water there. It looks like you may have some dirt coming through that joint. Or one of the joints in amongst it. It's hard to say. Sometimes people dry fit the joints when they're putting things together and forget to glue stuff. In other cases, it's due to a Fernco, which is a rubber gasket that secures joints together. Those things can slip in some cases when you bury the line, and it can expose the joints to the ground. Usually none of this type of settling happens rapidly. It's usually a slow but sure process, but all those things put together there, that's one I'm going to recommend a repair on. Home inspector turned a little bit of water on there while I was out locating. I'll have a little bit coming down line here. All right, and I'm going to recommend relocating just to double check the depths. I'm marking a 3-foot span of pipe out there. That's lining up with everything I'm seeing here on camera from 75 to 78 feet. Recommend a repair here to correct this, the transition. The reason I'm recommending you relocate is the depths I'm getting here. They're varying a little bit. I'm getting quite a shallow depth. Some of these basements have deceivingly shallow lines, but I'm not even quite 5 feet deep right here. I'm around 4'6", 4'8" inches. A little bit deeper than that at the transition to clay. So it's a pretty easy spot to find. It's almost straight out from the front doorway. There's I think when they did the update on this thing, they put a little piece of concrete walkway over the top of it. But you'll see my paint markings leading up to about the face of the curb there, and it looks, from what I can tell based on the locates I'm getting, it would appear they left some amount of clay pipe on property. I mean, not a ton, but a little bit of it. When you do these updates in Portland, folks are getting better about it these days. You want to take that repair about 6 inches to a foot past the face of the curb. Transition joints are by far the weakest joints in a sewer line, especially when you have material transitions, plastic to clay, even more so when you have a diameter change to root intrusions. Number one joint for root intrusions. Obviously the clay pipe's got some roots. That's also dang near 100-year-old pipe out there. It's not surprising to see that. But that way, if you ever do get a root plowing through that transition joint, it is undoubtedly doing it in city responsibility and not in homeowner territory. If you draw an imaginary line from this clean out that we're going through right now out to the street, it's a little bit offset to that, but you know, that's essentially the path the line takes. It's a pretty straight running line overall. Again, a little bit of water still trickling to the line right here. So again, if repairs are not done on that for some reason or another, I do highly recommend rescoping periodically to monitor it for progression and or buildup. It's not the biggest belly on planet Earth. You know, it's about a 3-foot section of pipe there holding about an inch or so of water. It's a decent distance from the house, which is a good thing. I'm more concerned about what that's going to turn into, or potentially could turn into, as time goes on, than I am how it's affecting flow right at this moment in time. You can see very, very clean sewer line. That water's just got a different level of murkiness to it that I would expect to see from a line this clean and clear, but you know, it's hard to say with absolute certainty. That's just that texture you're seeing in the water out there is pretty common to see, that graininess when you've got a level of dirt or sand, something like that, seeping into the pipe from outside the line. Anyway, the rest of the line prior to that point there, from about 75 feet back in, all the ABS and cast iron pipe all appears to be in good condition, or in good condition for its age and intact. And then everything past the face of the curb, it's doing its job. There's some imperfections there, but that's all city responsibility. If you do end up getting repairs done, I highly recommend rescoping the sewer line, and you want to do that, especially if that requires any going into the road at all. Hopefully it can be done without doing it, but sometimes it does require that when you're that close to the curb. You want to make sure your rescope is taking place after the trench is closed, when there's weight on top of the line. That spot there in particular, you know, how it's bellied out like it is, that section of pipe probably looked perfect before you put weight on top of the line. It's not until you bury it under 5-6 feet of earth where you get to see if it's going to settle or not. Anyhow, from just a purely flow standpoint, line is functioning properly at this time. Draining somewhat slower than it should due to the standing water. Again, no major buildup in the area that's leading me to believe that belly is causing recurring blockages or anything of that sort. I'm a little more concerned about how that's going to play out over time. If that joint's exposed to the ground, progression leading to an offset and a worsening of the belly. But if repairs don't happen, just treat the line nicely. Don't put things down the line that won't disintegrate, wipes, paper towels, things like that. Because if stuff does hang up in the belly, you want it to be things that easily disintegrate and break down.